Ambassador Yuna Kim walked slowly through the massive halls of the Galactic Council building on Nexus Prime. Her black boots echoed against the smooth crystal floors that had been polished by countless alien feet over 300 years. Today would be different from all the other days she had spent here arguing with representatives from across the galaxy. The main assembly hall stretched up so high that clouds formed near the ceiling. Thousands of seats held beings from every corner of the galaxy. There were the tall, thin Zalandi with their bug-like faces and clicking sounds. The ancient Kethmori looked like walking crystals that glowed with soft light. The warrior race called Vorthak sat in their heavy armor, always ready for battle. Yuna had been coming to this place for 15 years. She had given speeches, made proposals, and tried to work with these aliens to make life better for everyone in the galaxy. But every time humans suggested something new, the other species said no. Every time humans wanted to share their discoveries, the aliens worried it would cause problems. Captain Jinho Park stood behind Yuna, wearing his Earth Defense Fleet uniform. He had watched the Council vote down human ideas 47 times. 47 times they had said human terraforming technology was too dangerous. 47 times they claimed human medical advances needed more testing. 47 times they insisted that human exploration plans would upset the balance of power. The translator machines hummed quietly as Yuna stepped up to the speaking platform. Representatives from 2,000 different worlds turned their various eyes, sensors, and attention toward her. Some had multiple heads, others were just clouds of gas in containment suits, and a few looked almost human except for their blue or green skin. Honored members of the Galactic Council, Yuna began, her voice carrying clearly through the translation system that turned her words into clicks, hums, flashes of light, and chemical signals that each species could understand. I stand before you today to announce that humanity is leaving the Council. The hall erupted in noise. The Zalandi made angry clicking sounds. The Vorthak banged their armored fists on their seats. The gas cloud beings released puffs of colorful vapor that meant they were annoyed. Yuna waited for the noise to die down before continuing. For 3 centuries, we have tried to be good partners. We have shared our knowledge. We have followed your rules. We have waited patiently while you debated every small change for years and years. A large Zalandi representative stood up, its voice coming to the translator as a mechanical buzz. The young species always think they know better than their elders. Humans lack patience. You will be back within 1 year, begging us to let you return. Other aliens nodded their various heads or flashed agreement signals. They had seen this before with other young species. The newcomers would get frustrated, leave the Council, then come crawling back when they realized how hard it was to survive alone in the galaxy. But Captain Park knew something the aliens did not know. He had seen the secret reports. He knew about the projects humanity had been working on in the outer regions of human space. Projects that the Council would never approve if they knew about them. We came here hoping to learn from you, Yuna continued. We wanted to share what we discovered and help solve problems together. Instead, we found a system designed to stop progress, not encourage it. You are so afraid of change that you would rather let people suffer than try new solutions. An ancient Kethmori elder pulsed with slow, dim light, which meant it was thinking deeply. Through the translator, its voice sounded like wind chimes. Stability has kept peace in this galaxy for millennia. Young species bring chaos. The Council exists to prevent wars and disasters. And while you prevent disasters, Yuna replied, you also prevent discoveries. While you maintain stability, you also maintain suffering. We have medicines that could save billions of lives, but you won't let us share them because they haven't been tested for 100 years. We have technology that could turn dead worlds into gardens, but you won't allow it because it might upset trade balances. Dr. Miho Lee sat in the human section of the assembly, reviewing the evacuation schedules on his tablet. Every human facility in Council space was being carefully dismantled. Every piece of technology was being packed up and shipped out. Nothing would be left behind for the aliens to study or copy. The truth was that humanity had been preparing for this moment for 20 years. While the Council debated and delayed, human scientists had been working on projects in the empty space between spiral arms, far from alien sensors. Projects that would make the Council concerned seem very small indeed. We refuse to waste any more time in endless committees, Yuna announced. We refuse to let bureaucracy stop us from helping people who need help. We refuse to pretend that maintaining the status quo is more important than making tomorrow better than today. She paused and looked around the huge hall one last time. Goodbye, Galactic Council. We hope someday you will understand what you could have been. As Yuna walked out of the assembly hall, most of the aliens were already turning to discuss how to divide up the territories humans would be leaving behind. They saw opportunity, not loss. They had no idea that humanity had been planning something far beyond their imagination. 2 years had passed since the humans walked out of the Galactic Council, and Dr. Samin Choi was starting to worry. She sat in her laboratory on the research station orbiting Kepler 442, staring at reports that made less sense each day. The Keth Mori scientist had spent her life studying how different species work together across the galaxy, but now everything was falling apart. Her computer screen showed a map of the galaxy with red warning lights scattered across it like a disease. Each light marked a place where something had gone wrong. Supply ships arriving late, communication networks failing, entire star systems going quiet for weeks at a time. "Computer, show me the pattern analysis," she said in her musical Kethmori language. The holographic display changed to show trade routes that looked like a broken spider web. The lines that represented shipping lanes were flickering and fading. Most of the broken connections had one thing in common. They had all depended on human logistics networks to function properly. On the other side of the galaxy, Administrator Hyung-woo Nam was dealing with his own crisis. The mining operation on asteroid belt Sigma 7 had stopped working 3 days ago when the main excavation robot broke down. Before the humans left, he would have called engineer Sarah Martinez, and she would have fixed it with some clever solution nobody else had thought of. Now he had 12 different alien specialists looking at the problem. The Zilani engineer said the robot needed to be completely rebuilt according to proper specifications. The Vorthak mechanic wanted to blow it up and start over. The gas cloud being suggested waiting 6 months for replacement parts to arrive from their homeworld. Meanwhile, millions of tons of rare metals sat unmined while the specialists argued about the correct procedure for fixing one broken motor. Hyun-woo remembered how Sarah used to fix things. She would look at the broken machine, grab some spare parts from completely different equipment, and somehow make it work better than before. The aliens called it inefficient and against safety protocols. Sarah called it getting the job done. Strange reports were coming from the edges of human space. Captain Min Ji-yoon commanded a council patrol ship that investigated these reports. What she found made no sense. Human colonies that should have been full of people were empty, but not destroyed. The buildings were clean and undamaged. The power was still on. Gardens were still being watered by automatic systems. It looked like everyone had just packed up and left, taking only their personal belongings. "Sir," her communications officer reported, "I'm picking up faint signals from the colony's computers. It looks like they're still running some kind of program." Minji authorized a landing party to investigate. What they found was even stranger. The colony's main computer was running a complex simulation program. When they tried to access it, they found files labeled Project Exodus Phase 2 Complete. But the most disturbing discoveries came from the deep space monitoring stations. Sensor operator Wonho Kim had been tracking unusual energy readings from the outer rim of the galaxy, where no ships were supposed to travel. "There's something out there," he told his supervisor. "Big energy signatures moving through empty space. When I try to get a closer look, they disappear." The supervisor, a cautious Zilani named KX-Thick, dismissed the report. "Sensor ghosts. Equipment malfunction. Humans probably left some of their broken technology behind." But Wonho knew his equipment. These weren't equipment failures. These were ships, huge ships, operating in regions of space where the galaxy's gravity was too weak to support normal faster-than-light travel. Ships using technology that shouldn't exist. Back in Council space, the first real crisis hit when the aquatic depth dwellers accused the silicon-based Starbound of stealing water from their territory. In the past, Human diplomats would have arranged a meeting, found a compromise, and solved the problem in a few days. Now, the argument had been going on for 8 months. The depth dwellers had stopped all trade with anyone who did business with the Crystarchs. The Crystarchs had responded by blocking access to rare minerals that dozens of other species needed. 16 different worlds were now involved in the dispute, and nobody could agree on how to fix it. Ambassador Geo Sun used to handle these situations with what he called creative solutions. He would find ways for both sides to get what they needed without losing face. The current council mediators only knew how to follow the official procedures, which said that such disputes should be resolved through a formal committee process that could take decades. Dr. Samin Choi compiled all these reports into a presentation for the council leadership. She stood before the emergency assembly and showed them the spreading pattern of failures across the galaxy. The humans weren't just participants in our civilization, she explained. They were the glue that held it together. They solved problems we didn't even know we had. They connected systems that couldn't connect themselves. They made things work that shouldn't have worked. The alien leaders listened, but most of them still believed the problems were temporary. Surely their own specialists could learn to do what the humans had done. Surely the galaxy could function without one small species that had only been around for a few centuries. But as Salmon looked at her data, she saw a different pattern emerging. The humans hadn't just left. They had taken their solutions with them. And somewhere out in the darkness between the stars, they were building something new. 5 years had passed since humanity left the council, and Commander Taeyun Lim stared at his battle display with growing anger. His Vordak war fleet, once the most feared force in 3 sectors, had just been defeated by a small group of pirates using stolen cargo ships. How is this possible? He growled at his tactical officer. We have the best weapons, the best armor, the best training in the galaxy. Their flying junk ships held together with spare parts. The tactical officer, a young Vordak named Kexval, nervously adjusted his armor plating. Sir, they're using human fighting tactics. They don't follow any standard battle patterns. When we expected them to retreat, they attacked. When we moved to surround them, they scattered in directions that made no sense. Taeyun had fought alongside human military advisors for 20 years before they left. Captain Lisa Chun had taught him that sometimes the best strategy was to do something completely unexpected. Victory doesn't come from following the rules, she used to say. It comes from making new rules faster than your enemy can adapt. Now those lessons were being used against him by criminals who had somehow gotten hold of human military training programs. His perfectly organized battle formations were useless against enemies who refused to fight the way wars were supposed to be fought. Across the galaxy, similar problems were spreading like a plague. On the industrial world of New Germania, Director Yunji Park watched her factories grinding to a halt one by one. The massive machines that process raw materials into finished goods had been designed by teams of different species working together. But the teams only worked because human engineers had found ways to make incompatible alien technologies talk to each other. The fusion power plant is running at 60% efficiency, her chief engineer reported. The Zalani control systems keep trying to shut down the Kethmori energy collectors because they think the power fluctuations are dangerous. Before the humans left, engineer Mike Johnson would have installed one of his translation patches, small pieces of code that help different alien systems understand each other. Now the Zalani and Kethmori engineers argued about whose technology was superior while the factory slowly died. But the most frightening problems were happening at the edges of the galaxy. Dr. Sun-Ho Kim operated the Deep Space Observatory on Outpost Zeta, monitoring the empty regions where no stars shone. His job was to watch for asteroids, comets, or other dangers that might threaten inhabited worlds. Instead, he was seeing things that shouldn't exist. There's massive construction happening out there, he told his supervisor during their weekly report. I'm detecting artificial structures larger than space stations. They're not in orbit around any star. They're just floating in empty space. His supervisor, an elderly Kethmori named Veltar, pulsed with skeptical blue light. Nothing can survive in the void between stars. There's no energy source, no materials to build with. That's what I thought too, Sun-Ho replied, pulling up his sensor data. But look at these readings. Whatever they're building out there is generating its own power. and the construction rate is accelerating. The breakthrough came when a damaged probe drifted into Council space from the Galactic Rim. Technical specialist Wonho Kim worked for 3 weeks to repair its damaged systems and extract the data from its memory banks. What he found changed everything. It's a human probe, he reported to the emergency council session, but it's been modified with technology one don't recognize. The power source is some kind of miniature star contained in a magnetic bottle. The computing systems are based on quantum processing that's at least 50 years ahead of anything we have. The probe's memory contained fragments of data that painted an impossible picture, references to bridgehead stations in something called the void stream. Coordinates pointing not to distant stars, but to regions of space between galaxies where nothing should exist. Most disturbing of all were the communication logs. The probe had been receiving signals from sources located in other galaxies entirely. Galaxies millions of light years away that would take millions of years to reach with any known technology. Captain Min Ji-yoon led a joint council expedition to investigate the coordinates found in the probe. Her ship, the largest and most advanced vessel the council could assemble, traveled farther from civilization than any alien had ever gone before. What they found at the coordinates made no sense according to everything they knew about physics. "Sir," her science officer reported, "I'm detecting a structure. It's huge. The mass reading suggests it's larger than most moons, but it's not orbiting anything. It's just sitting here in empty space." The structure appeared to be some kind of way station or refueling depot, clearly a human design, but built with technology that seemed impossible. It was generating power from the cosmic background radiation itself, somehow concentrating the tiny amount of energy that filled empty space into usable fuel. But the station was abandoned, with only automated systems still running. And those systems were sending signals deeper into the void, toward targets so distant that their light hadn't yet reached Council space. As Minji studied the readings, she realized a horrible truth. The humans hadn't retreated to the edges of the galaxy. They had used the edges as a launching point for something much more ambitious. They were building bridges between galaxies, and they had been doing it for years. Research director Sunho Kim sat in his laboratory staring at data that made his hands shake. For 6 months, he had been analyzing the information recovered from human installations at the galaxy's edge. What he discovered was so incredible that he had checked his calculations dozens of times, hoping he was wrong. He was not wrong. "Director," his assistant Yuna called from across the lab, "the council representatives are here for your briefing." Sunho took a deep breath and activated the holographic display. The assembled aliens, Zelanti, Kethmori, Vorthak, and others, watched as a three-dimensional map of the local galaxy cluster appeared in the air above them. "What you are about to see will change everything we thought we knew about human capabilities," Sunho began, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "While we have been arguing about territorial disputes within our single galaxy, humanity has been preparing to colonize the entire universe." The hologram zoomed out, showing not just a Milky Way but the neighboring galaxies, Andromeda, Triangulum, and the smaller dwarf galaxies that orbit them like moons around a planet. Red dots appeared between the galaxies, marking structures that human deep space sensors had detected. A Zelanti representative clicked its mandibles in disbelief. Impossible. The distance between galaxies is millions of light years. No technology can bridge such gaps. "Human technology can," Sunho replied, highlighting one of the red dots. "This structure, located halfway between our galaxy and Andromeda, is actively generating its own power and appears to be some kind of massive shipyard. It's building vessels on a scale we've never imagined." Captain Min Ji-yoon had led 3 more expeditions to the Galactic Rim since discovering the first way station. Each mission revealed more evidence of humanity's impossible project. Her latest report described structures that defied everything aliens knew about engineering and physics. "The stations aren't just refueling stops," she told the assembly. "They're manufacturing centers. Each one is capable of processing raw stellar matter into construction materials. They're mining dead stars and turning the material into ships and habitats." The aliens in the room began to understand the scope of what they were seeing. While they had been focused on managing resources within their single galaxy, humans had developed technology to harvest resources from entire galactic clusters. Dr. Yunji Park, the Council's leading physicist, had spent weeks analyzing the energy signatures detected by long-range sensors. Her findings were even more disturbing than construction projects. "They're not using faster-than-light travel, as we understand it," she explained. "Their ships appear to be folding space itself, creating permanent tunnels between distant points. Once a tunnel is established, travel between galaxies becomes as simple as traveling between star systems." Technical specialist Wonho Kim had been monitoring human communications intercepted by the deep space arrays. The fragments he decoded painted a picture of human civilization that was beyond anything the Council had imagined. "They're not just in Andromeda," he reported. "I've intercepted signals referencing active colonies in 7 different galaxies. They're discussing resource allocation, population transfers, and terraforming projects on a scale that involves entire galactic sectors." The most shocking revelation came from linguistic analysis of the intercepted transmissions. Dr. Seojun Park, the Council's expert in human languages, had been studying the communications for patterns and references. "They're not talking like refugees or explorers," he told the emergency session. "They're talking like empire builders." The conversations referenced Sector 7 production quotas and Galaxy 15 terraforming schedules. "They're treating galaxies the way we treat star systems." As the evidence accumulated, a terrifying picture emerged. Humanity had not abandoned the galaxy in frustration. They had graduated from it. While alien species had spent centuries perfecting the art of managing scarcity within limited resources, humans had simply eliminated scarcity by accessing unlimited resources. The final piece of the puzzle came from the deepest space observations ever conducted. Using every sensor array in Council space working together, they detected something that confirmed their worst fears. In the Triangulum Galaxy, over 2 million light-years away, artificial structures were clearly visible. Not just space stations or ships, but planetary engineering on a massive scale. Entire star systems have been modified, with planets moved into optimal positions and stars themselves being used as power sources for construction projects. "How long have they been doing this?" asked the Council chairman, an ancient being whose species had ruled their region for millennia. Sunho consulted his data one more time. "Based on the scale of construction and the time required for such projects, we estimate they began this expansion at least 20 years before they left the Council. Everything they did here, their proposals, their technology sharing, their diplomatic efforts, was essentially a side project while they prepared for intergalactic expansion." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had been playing a completely different game than the rest of the galaxy. While aliens have been focused on local politics and resource management, humans have been preparing to claim the entire universe. They had not been defeated or driven away. They had simply outgrown the need for the Galactic Council and moved on to bigger things. The galaxy had not lost member species. It had lost its future. 10 years after humanity vanished from Council space, Ambassador Kyungsoo Jang stood on the observation deck of humanity's flagship, looking out at a view that would have been impossible when he was young. Through the transparent metal windows, he could see 3 different galaxies spread across the cosmic darkness like jewels on black silk. The ship itself was beyond anything the old Galactic Council could have imagined. It was the size of a small moon, powered by captured starlight, and capable of creating its own hyperspace tunnels between galaxies. Inside its massive halls, humans worked alongside members of dozens of species who had chosen to join humanity's expansion into the universe. Kyungsoo activated the communication array and prepared humanity's first official message to the Galactic Council in a decade. He had been waiting for this moment, wondering if the aliens back home had learned anything from their years of struggle and decline. "To our former colleagues in the Galactic Council Forum," he began, his words traveling through quantum tunnels that would deliver the message instantly across millions of light years. "Humanity extends an invitation to join us in the next phase of galactic evolution." Back in Council space, the message arrived at the Central Communication Hub on Nexus Prime. Director Yuno Lee, one of the few humans who had chosen to stay behind and monitor the situation, Watch as alien leaders gather to hear humanity's first words in 10 years. The message played on screens throughout the dying council territories. Kyung-soo's image appeared, but he looked different than the humans the aliens remembered. He was older, certainly, but there was something else, a confidence that came from unlimited possibilities. We know that the galaxy has faced difficult times since our departure, Kyung-soo continued. We know that systems have failed, that conflicts have escalated, and that many worlds are struggling to survive. This was not our intention, but it was perhaps inevitable. In the council assembly hall, representatives from the surviving species listened with a mixture of hope and fear. Many of their civilizations were on the edge of collapse. Trade routes had failed, technology was breaking down, and wars over dwindling resources had consumed entire sectors. We offer you a choice, Kyung-soo said. You can join us in building something greater than any single galaxy could contain. We have resources enough for billions of worlds. We have technology that makes scarcity a thing of the past. We have space enough for every species to grow and thrive without competing with their neighbors. Director Yuna watched the alien reactions carefully. Some species, particularly the younger ones who had suffered most from the Council's failures, seemed excited by the possibility. Others, especially the old powers like the Zalandi and Kethmori leadership, showed clear signs of resistance. However, Kyung-soo's message continued. We will not return to the old ways. We will not waste centuries debating every decision in committees. We will not allow fear of change to paralyze progress. Those who join us must be willing to embrace innovation, exploration, and the constant challenge of making tomorrow better than today. The message included coordinates for rendezvous points where species could meet human representatives, but also included something else. Technical specifications for basic intergalactic travel technology, freely shared with anyone who wanted to develop their own expansion capabilities. Some species responded immediately. The aquatic depth dwellers, whose homeworld was dying due to stellar changes they couldn't prevent, sent a delegation within days. Several younger species that had never held much power in the old council saw this as their chance to escape the failing system. Dr. Samin Choi, now serving as a Kethmori liaison to humanity, led her people's delegation to the first rendezvous point. What she found there challenged everything she thought she knew about civilization. The human facility was built inside a rogue planet, a world that had been ejected from its solar system and now traveled through the void between stars. But the humans had turned this dead rock into a thriving city powered by artificial suns and protected by energy shields that created breathable atmosphere around the entire planet. Welcome, said Director Minji Park, the human administrator who greeted the alien delegations. We're glad you decided to join us. Your first choice is simple. Which galaxy would you like to call home? Samin stared at the holographic display showing dozens of galaxies, each marked with human colonies and infrastructure. You mean we can choose any of them? Why not? Minji smiled. Space is infinite. Resources are unlimited once you know how to harvest them from stellar matter. The only restriction is your imagination and your willingness to build something new. Not all species chose to join humanity's expansion. The Zalandi leadership refused the offer entirely, insisting that their traditional ways were superior and that humanity's success was temporary. They retreated into their heavily fortified core worlds, maintaining their rigid hierarchies, while their civilization slowly crumbled around them. The Vortex split into two factions, the younger warriors who joined humanity's exploration fleets, and the old guard who remained loyal to their failing empire. Several other species made similar divisions, with the adaptable members choosing expansion, while the conservative elements clung to the dying council. Ambassador Yuna Kim, now ancient but still sharp-minded, stood beside Kyung-soo on the flagship's observation deck. Behind them, through another window, the Milky Way appeared as just another spiral galaxy among countless others. Do you think we made the right choice? She asked, remembering the day she had announced humanity's departure from the council. Kyung-soo smiled as he watched construction ships beginning work on humanity's latest project, turning an entire dwarf galaxy into a vast nature preserve where species could develop without interference. We gave them every chance to grow with us, he replied. Some chose to embrace the future. Others chose to remain trapped in the past. That was always their choice to make.